Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. The triumphant trio is back, and we are getting you ready for the Week 15 game against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right. They got to go back to Philly, the city of brotherly love. Not been fond of the Steelers, but let's get the show started. Dave Schofield, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, it's good to be back. Sorry I missed you guys on the post-game show, but I listened to almost all of it, although I couldn't comment at the time, and just good to be here with you and actually be able to respond.
I picture Dave listening to Bryan and I on the post-game show, just like shaking his head. I disagree with all of this. This is awful. What are they talking about?
Oh, because that's how I am when I'm on the show.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like Dave's resting face is just a chagrin of disappointment. Anyways, Bryan Davis, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, it's the holiday season, and even though this is not a Christmas movie, it's set at Christmas time in Philadelphia, one of my all-time favorites. I believe it will be 41 years old. It's called Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Eddie Murphy. And it's time for the Steelers to trade places with the Eagles when it comes to playing in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, let's start there. I mean, why not? I mean, the Steelers haven't won. I think I saw that it's been since Lyndon Johnson was the president of the United States. I think so. It's like,
yes,
they haven't won there in that long.
I know.
What? We haven't heard that every 5 minutes.
Seriously, but I said this on Friday's Let's Ride, which is already recorded. So I'll say it here. I'm sorry, but like streaks are meant to be broken. There's going to come a time where the Browns are going to beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Like, it's going to happen. Like, y'all realize that. I mean, it's not like that.
I mean, they play there every year. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Right. And the Steelers don't have as many opportunities. And the last time they were there, it was a shellacking. We all remember that. They were completely outclassed by the Eagles. But I don't know. Like, I feel like this team, more so than most recent teams that have gone to Philadelphia, are more equipped to actually pull off this upset. Because they are not favored. They're actually 5.5-point underdogs here. Dave, you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Pittsburgh Standard Time this morning with myself and Greg Benevent, and we were talking about, all right, how you feeling about, the how daunting the gauntlet is. And I'm like, we feel like it's not as daunting as it felt like earlier, like before the season or, way when the schedule first came out. And it's not about their opponents. The opponents are still just as good. When it comes to the Eagles, they're even better because they fell apart at the end of last year. So you didn't know what to think about this Eagles team coming in. They're even better. But the reason you feel better about it isn't about the opponent. It's about the Steelers themselves.
Yeah, and I think there's some questions there, and I want to ask those questions, but I want to get Bryan's take on first. Like the Steelers is this team equipped to get the job done in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I really think that this team is equipped. And the reason I think that this team is equipped is kind of simple because they're a different team. They're a hungry team. They've got guys that have won the Super Bowl, but not for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have Russell Wilson. They have Landon Roberts. Those guys know what it is to hoist a sticky Lombardi. And these are the guys that are big leaders in this locker room as well. So I kind of feel that this team has a desperation about them. They definitely have the us against the world mentality. And I feel like they're really tight. One thing that, it was really cool. And I'm sorry if I always bring up Hard Knocks, but watching George Pickens on the sideline saying, I want to play. I want to play. It feels like, this just feels like a Pittsburgh team that has some veteran leaders that are doing in my Super Bowl days, and they want to go ahead and they're ready. And I feel like with guys getting a little longer in the tooth, like a Cam and a TJ, and I think they're chomping on the bit, but this is a team that I think the bottom line is they don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling that from this team. So, yeah, I think they're equipped.
So outside of the history of the Steelers' failures in Philadelphia, everyone is also saying this is a test, and it is a test. But let me ask you all this question. Do you think this is a bigger test for the Steelers offense or the Steelers defense? And no, you cannot say C both. Like, I want you to pick one. Dave, we'll start with you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going defense.
Okay.
And the reason I think it's the bigger test for the defense is simply because this is a dynamic run game. But you can say they went, but they really struggle with the pass and everything. We'll see. This is the best offensive line in football. So I want to see how big and nasty and stand up to them the Pittsburgh Steelers are going against the best offensive line in football, mainly because, being an offensive line guy myself, but I think that's so important. And I would have gone with the other answer, but the reason that I didn't is because if there is no George Pickens, then it's not exactly all that the Steelers offense can be, if that makes sense. So I think this is a big test for the defense to see how they can go up against the best of the best offensive line and see how they can get.
All right, Bryan, you agree or disagree with what Dave just said?
I agree with Dave, but I am going to go the opposite. I am going to go offense, and I am doing this for one reason and one reason only. This is an offense that, sure, they don't have George Pickens, but they need to prove that they can score points without them. They scored points last week. They would have had 30, and the reason I say would have, because I kind of count those kneel downs inside in the red zone, inside territory. My gosh, Najee was chomping at the bit to get in the end zone. He was trying, and Jeff and I
would have hit the over.
Yeah, and Jeff and I joked how great it would have been if Boz. I wouldn't have minded if Najee was stopped short, so Boz could have come in and kicked the field goal instead of just kneeling with right.
I was okay with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that, but I mean, you like to see 30 up there, but as important as it is to stop Hurts and Barkley, it's even more important for the Steelers to prove that they can go into a postseason by putting up 30 and putting up numbers. And we used to say this all the time. Dave was very famous for this. The defense is always carrying the offense, not this year, but in the past shows, we've talked about that. But it would be nice to see the offense carry the defense when they have to. We saw that one or two times this season, and I almost feel like you need to win a shootout again. This is possible shootout territory, so it's a big test for the offense.
How we predict this game will be very interesting to me, and the second half of the show for sure, because I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you get a feel for a game, a typical Baltimore Pittsburgh game. You kind of know, okay, this is what it's fluky stuff can happen. And this is an NFC opponent. And while they've played there in recent history, it wasn't fond to the Steelers, but man, I have no feel for what this game could be. It could be anything really. And I look at this and think for the offense, and this will lead us into the injury report. The Steelers are not going to have George Pickens. I would be absolutely stunned if they have George Pickens this week. But the one thing they have this week, and I know that Dave, I think you said this on the Scobro show and you reiterated it on your Pittsburgh Standard Time podcast, is the one thing the Steelers do have this week is an actual week to prepare to not have George Pickens on the offensive side of the football. So the question is, well, what does it look like? Is it just Mike Williams taking over in George Pickens' role? Are they going to maybe mix and match some things? I don't think that what they did against Cleveland is necessarily what they'll try and do against Philadelphia, based on the fact that Scotty Miller showed up to Acrisure Stadium thinking he was going to be inactive. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you got to go out there and make some plays, which he did, thankfully. But I think this is going to be really interesting to see what the offense can do without Pickens with the prep. And if they were to go out, Bryan, and to have a shootout performance, think about that. Because like Dave said earlier, if you do this without Pickens, think about what the ceiling is with him. I don't know. We shall see. But any other thoughts, Dave?
Well, not really any big new thoughts other than I could reiterate some things that I've said on other shows. Yeah. Like I do think I kind of want to get your guys' opinion on this, because I'd asked Greg about this last week against the Browns. It was like, I don't care how the Steelers play. I don't care what they have to do. They just got to freaking win that game. They needed that win. in the AFC North, whatever you had to do to grind it out, whether you did it to blow them out, either way, get the win. This week, I feel it's the exact opposite, that it's like whether or not the Steelers get the win, it would be great if they did. This is the best game if they're going to drop any games, ever since they played Washington. This would be the best game to lose out of any of them if they were to lose one. But it's more about playing well against a quality opponent. Even if they don't play well but scratch out a win, I'm going to be like, ugh. But even if they don't win the game, if they play well against a quality Philadelphia Eagles team, it's going to tell me something about this team going forward.
All right, Bryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, two things. First of all, Dave, I agree with what you're saying. I am not disagreeing with it, and I am not intimating that you were saying this, but other people are really ticking me off by saying that this game means nothing whatsoever in the standings.
Oh, no, it means something.
Yes. Yes. But I'm reading that and I'm hearing that. And so when I hear that, this means everything, because to piggyback on what you said, if you could put up points, and Jeff said the same thing, shootout. If you could put up points against a quality opponent, because I think both sides of the ball, this is a very good team. We talked about the offensive trenches. The defensive trenches are wonderful and magnificent too, with all those Georgia Bulldogs and all that just bulk there. But Jeff said something that sparked me, and I was thinking that this feels like a Baltimore game to me. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that this is the Pennsylvania State Championship, and like Mike Tomlin said, we're representing Whippeal. With that,
play it in Breezewood.
You play it in Breezewood.
I want to see them play at Happy Valley. Honestly, sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Happy Valley would be amazing, but
yeah.
But anyways, I just kind of feel that this is a statement game if you win it. If you lose it, you're still a playoff caliber opponent. You're at 99% probability of getting in the playoffs, and we feel that. I mean, we almost feel like that feels like a lock. Knock. But I was knocking on wood, but I hit metal instead. I'm sorry.
I was like, what's that?
Same thing.
Yeah, it's Bryan. Just don't worry about it. I bring that comic relief, and I don't try to. So no, it's if you do that, and you expect them to be a playoff team, but do you want to just be a playoff team or be a contender and a favorite?
Yeah. And just to say this, in case people didn't know, there are playoff clinching scenarios on the line this week for the first time for the Steelers. If they win, they punch their ticket to the postseason. They don't lock up the division or anything like that. Or if the Dolphins and the Colts lose, the Steelers would also get in as well. So that's like this first stepping stone, is getting into the postseason. I will say this, when you think about what lies ahead, and this includes the Philadelphia game, people that say this game is meaningless don't really understand basic numbers. And I'm not a mathematician. Dave will tell you that. But still, you talk about if you were to win this game and go into Baltimore on a Saturday with still a 2-game lead in the division, because let's assume that Baltimore beats the doors off of the Giants this upcoming weekend, that's a huge bonus. Then compared to that's only a 1-game lead. This is a very important game. And I'm sure that the Steelers are talking about, and I heard Mike Tomlin say this on Tuesday, we're excited for this 5-star matchup. And I'm like, yes, there it is. He said it, the 5-star matchup. Why? Because we're in it, just like in 2008. I love that. I'm sure they're drumming that up. Dave, you want to say something? Go ahead.
They get it. If the Steelers win this game, if you were to say, oh, this means nothing, here's what it means. It means they get a leg up on the rest of the AFC North, because they'd be the only team to beat the Eagles from the division. All 4 of them had to play. All the other 3 have lost. Yeah. So if you win this game, you get that. I did that article on, what day was that? Yesterday, about the Steelers, the divisional, within the division, their common opponents that they all have, and that the Steelers have really had a resurgence this year in that regard. But I'm going to let Bryan talk, but there is one other thing. If you can come back to me with one
Sure.
last thing about this game, but go ahead, Bryan.
And if you win this game at the same time, Buffalo is in Detroit, and Detroit seems like one of the toughest outs that we've seen. If that happens, two teams with like records right now will become the Steelers' absolute second seed. And not only that, in position to win at home on Christmas Day, possibly, and have the number one seed if they keep winning. I know we don't want to look ahead, and I
can look ahead.
The 2 seed. I would prefer the 2 seed because you're like, it's nice to get rested, but at the same time, rest sometimes is rust, especially when it comes to the playoffs. And then that means you have a really good opponent the next round. If you're the 2 seed, as long as you win, you're guaranteed 2 home games. So
sometimes that third home game is a huge deal, especially if it's in Buffalo or Kansas City.
Well, if someone else can knock off that one number 1 seed, you get all 3 of them at home.
What else do you want to say, Dave?
Oh, I was going to say this is another. I already mentioned, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, phenomenal offensive line, but this is also a big test for the Steelers' offensive line.
Absolutely.
So this is a trenches game because that's how the Philadelphia Eagles have been built. A lot of that was thanks to Andy Weidel, who is now trying to do the same thing in Pittsburgh. So it's kind of like, all right, this is where they are. This is where we are. This is where we still need to go because we should know what's possible just by facing off against this team. So this game is going to really be about the offensive and defensive lines for both teams.
All right. The super chat here before we go over to the injury report. Ken, is it Cruz,
maybe? I don't know.
Let's go with Cruz.
Hey, Ken, thanks for the $10. We appreciate it. He said, let's go Steelers. You guys are terrific. Thank you for everything you boys do and bringing us the best daily Steelers coverage in the biz. Ken, appreciate the tip and appreciate the kind words. If anyone's watching us live right now, I really hope that if you follow us on YouTube or that you're checking out other shows that aren't on YouTube. And that would be like Bryan and Coach KT Smith. Their Here We Go Steelers show. Not on YouTube, only on the audio feed. Dave's mentioned his Pittsburgh Standard Time podcast. Brand this morning, Thursday morning, only on the audio feed. My Let's Ride podcast, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Got to check us out on the audio feed. Wherever you get your podcast, search Steel Curtain Network or just Steelers, and we'll be one of the top options. Find us there. Trust me, you'll enjoy all of the content that we put out there. So, all right, let's go into the injury report. Dave, you ready?
Well, I've got to go multiple places for it because the Steelers still haven't reported the Eagles injury report. But I got it.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so let's go with the Steelers because that's on one page. Things, how they were yesterday, didn't change for today. Looking at just the players dealing with injury, Montravius Adams, as he's coming back, still in this 21-day window, he was full both days. He's a guy, he's available. The question is, do they need to bring him back yet? Part of what that's going to depend on is Larry Ogunjobi, who didn't practice either day with his groin injury, along with Deshon Elliott, who didn't, although they have him listed as a cornerback, I realize that's the cut and paste component let him down there, didn't they? With the hamstring, they have him. He didn't practice either day. And of course, George Pickens with his hamstring did not practice either day.
The Elliott one is the one that bothers me the most because I think that Larry O, if he's out, you move Montravius Adams onto the 53, you'd be okay. You activate Dean Lowry. He was inactive last week. I think you can have the horses to kind of replace.
Who do you cut from the 53 though?
Mark Robinson.
He's had a helmet every game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, Max Sharpling.
Yeah.
Do they need a ninth offensive lineman?
No.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Because you could always bring one up from the practice squad if you needed it. So.
But yeah, it's tough. But it's the Deshon Elliott one that's like, gosh darn it. Like, they have DeMonte KZ, but he has done so much for the defensive side of the ball if he were out. Now, I will say that I think Deshon Elliott, if he comes and practices Friday, I think he has a chance. Maybe this is planned. We'll see. Bryan,
same with Larry O.
He's that guy. Yeah, he's that. Speaking of Larry O, 2 years ago, Larry O, every single week, you see him on some kind of injury list, not practicing, and next thing you know, he's playing on Sunday. It feels like Deshon and Dante Jackson, even though he's not on the injury list here, it seems like they're those guys that they seem to be banged up, but when it comes game day, it's like, we're good.
Yeah. Dave, any thoughts? Anything that you see there that you want to bring up?
No, but you're right. Honestly, with any three of these players, if they could practice Friday, they could play Sunday. I'm not looking for it to be George Pickens.
No.
Like I said, the exception, not the rule, was Jaylen Warren earlier this offseason. Earlier this season, when he was doubtful on Tuesday and then actually practiced on Friday, and they upgraded him to questionable, and then he played. I don't think that's the case with this one, because I think if it was, there would have been a little bit more hope with it. So, as I said when I was on the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast this week, that this could be good for the Steelers offense if they can show that they can still have really good production without George Pickens. Can you play winning football without George Pickens against quality opponents? Then just imagine what happens when you put George Pickens back into the lineup. So that it's intriguing to see how that all works out. But it doesn't help much for this week. But in the future, not having Pickens and working through that could help the Steelers down the line.
All right. Let's go to the Philadelphia injury report. What do they have going on over there?
Okay, they actually were pretty good. They had everybody practice. The only one, they had one person, safety, Sidney Brown, was limited with the knee, but they had full participation from, I'll just list the ones that weren't due to rest. From safety, Reed Blankenship with a concussion was full. Defensive tackle Jalen Carter with a shoulder was full. Wide receiver, is that Britton Covey? Maybe, I don't know, with the neck was full. Linebacker Nakobe Dean with an elbow was full. Quarterback Jalen Hurts with a left finger was full. Tackle Lane Johnson with a personal. I read that completely wrong. He was back to being full after missing some time the day before. Everyone else was just rest. So, but no joke. This is funny. As listed on their injury report from PhiladelphiaEagles.com, because the Steelers don't have it yet, that was back as a full participant due to rest was cornerback, and no joke, it says big play Slay.
I could have swore you were setting that up to say something about Kenny Pickett.
No. They listed it here as big play Slay.
Like that Kenny Pickett was getting a rest day. For what? He gets a rest day every day.
I don't even know where I talk. I forget these people on the tee. Who cares?
Oh, I'd love to see him, though.
All right, Brian, what do you think about the Eagles side of things?
Yeah, it's a lot of resting guys that they're healthy. But there's always that Friday. I mean, like it happened to the Steelers, that Friday jinx that happened last week with George Pickens. Also, like we were all like, "Whoa!" I mean, there could be a lot
of flack online and on the comments, like, "Oh, you guys jinxed us." We just read the injury report last week. What do you mean we jinxed you? We said they're a healthy team right now, and everyone's like, "Oh, you guys screwed."
Because they literally were a healthy team.
Yeah, like we were just reading the report.
We were reporting.
Ahead,
Brian, we weren't forecasting.
We don't have that much power.
Okay.
Guys.
Here, I want to bring this up because this is true, because Vincent Giorello put that out there. Dallas Goedert is out. He's on IR. That's why he's not on the injury report.
Right.
But yes, he is out.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Philly always has good tight ends.
Yeah,
that's true. So let's talk about this game quickly before we take a break. When you think about this upcoming matchup, what are some of the storylines, narratives that come to your brain that you think are going to be like difference makers? Dave, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I gave it as my secret number on Pittsburgh Standard Time, so I'll hit you guys with it here too. Now I got to flip back and actually find it. And that is over the last 9 games for each team. With Philly, that's their 9-game win streak. They have 3 turnovers, 3 offensive turnovers. That's 0.33 per game. The Steelers have, I think, maybe it's 25 or something like that over the last 9. They're averaging 2.56 per game. So that's a huge difference. Something's got to give for one of those Maybe they both give to the middle, but you'll see who's going to have it more their way. Is it going to be Philly not turning it over? Is it going to be the Steelers taking it away like they have been? That's a really big one. But honestly, the one I'm going to steal Jeff's thunder, but I'm giving him credit for it because he brought this up on Let's Ride. And that is, if you think the Steelers start slow.
Yikes. Yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah. So I'll let Jeff, if you want to talk about it, I'll let
Sure,
you
I can bring it up. Yeah. So I had known that because clearly a lot of people at Fans First, especially Mr. Pez, who I do a gambling podcast with, go check that out, Pez's Picks. He's a big Eagles fan. I'm always hearing about the Eagles, go Birds, all that stupid crap. And I keep tabs on it because he bets on them, and I got to figure out whether we win or lose every week. And I'm like, man, everyone's complaining about the starts. Like, how bad is it? So I finally found that information I was looking for. That for the Philadelphia Eagles, they have had 10 games. The Carolina Panthers game last week was their 10th time that they did not score a point in the first quarter. And in total, in the entire season, they have scored 17 points in the first quarter. That's it. Just 17 total points. That's very akin to the Steelers defense only giving up 16 points in the third quarters all season. But the Eagles offense, no one knows why. You could hand it off to Saquon Barkley seemingly and just let him run it, but they just don't get off to fast starts. The Steelers have to get off to a better start. It doesn't have to be the Bengals start because that was fantastic. But it's got to be a fast start. Get out to a fast start, get a lead, give yourself some cushion, and maybe you make the Eagles change what they want to do. I don't know. But yeah, is that the stat you were talking about, Dave?
Absolutely. When you said that, I'm like, Jeff summoning his inner stat geek. Loved it. I loved it. I was so proud of you in that moment.
Oh, I'm glad. It's good. Bryan, anything for you narrative-wise?
Yeah, and I have to find this out, but I saw this probably about 8 weeks ago, and I want to look it up to see for real, but I think Russell Wilson's career versus Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken,
6-0.
Okay, I was going to say 5-0, so you got me there.
And it's been in the live chat a few times.
Yeah.
I don't read the live chat anymore.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Because it's not that Seattle has 2 losses.
Yeah. That's why they do, because I was obsessed with the live chat at one point in my life. Here's the other thing. I'm reminded of the Washington game a lot when I think about this game, because I feel like Washington's defense is a Philadelphia defense light. I think they're pretty close. That's a good defense in Washington. And I thought that was I think they're very similar in the way they're made up. And I almost feel like this is an opportunity for the Steelers to be able to still put up points against a team like this. I'm also looking at the fact that I love the 17 points. So that's like a little over like 1.1 point per the first quarter. So they only get they average an extra point in every quarter, it looks like. But, I'm thinking about how they played against Carolina last week. And Carolina likes to run the ball with Chuba Hubbard. They're not as good of an offense as the Steelers. They're an interesting team, though. And they gave the Eagles fits. And you could say, well, the Steelers lost to the Browns. But Carolina is not a divisional game for the Philadelphia Eagles. And Jeff said at the beginning of this show, streaks are meant to be broken. Well, a 9-game winning streak is meant to be broken too.
Yep.
But if I'm looking at narrative and I'm looking at everything, there's some sniping going on in that locker room. And they could try to clean it up all they want. But if it comes out and you've got A.J. Brown and you've got Jalen Hurts and they're not complete simpatico, then it reminds me of, I'll talk about it in Bad Memories, but it's the same exact situation. And we'll talk about that
where you're
in
going to
just
go.
a little bit.
Are you going 0-4?
I'm going 04.
All right. That's what I thought. All right. So real quick, before we take a break, I want to get the super chat. Steeler fan 69, who always provides dad jokes. Now, he's brought his dad jokes for free on the mailbag segment every Wednesday on the Let's Ride podcast. He's now donating $5. We thank you for that. Here's the dad joke of the week. He said, my wife asked me to get out of the house because I can't stop singing Christmas songs. I said, but baby, it's cold outside. I love it. Very good.
Love it.
Dang, you got hit with the sad trombone by Brian Davis. All right. If you're watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. If you are listening in the audio feed, you're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to talk about the over-under game, give our predictions, take a trip back in memory lane, and don't forget Steelers trivia. We'll be right back after this break. All right, Steeler fans, we are back. Thank you all for being patient. And it is I don't even know if it's good or bad. I'm looking at my sheet from last week, the over-under game, and I'm trying to think what I picked. I can't remember. Dave, why don't you update us on?
Did you pick a whole lot of wrong picks?
Probably. I'm looking. It's like, I don't think I got that right. I don't think I got that right either.
You got one. You were under on the Freiermuth targets of 5.5. That was it. But for the rest of them, it wasn't so good for Jefferson. You had one, I had two, and Bryan opened up a huge lead with getting 4.
Nice.
So that was rough because we all took the over on the rushing yards. We just missed it.
Yep.
Bryan was wise, took the under on the Wilson passing yards, hit that by a ton. You and Bryan both hit the Freiermuth targets. Then Bryan hit the sacks being under. Yeah, of the 3.5. It was a close line. And the takeaways, Bryan and I hit that one of the over 2.5. They hit for the 4th straight game. It was 3-1. That's how it worked. And then I finally got one, just me. I took the under in Boswell field goals of 2.5. So that's what we were. We all picked the Steelers, but we all picked the over. And if they'd have kicked the field goal at the end, we would have hit the over as well, but we did not. So that means our total scores are, as I have to flip back to where I keep a tally of them. Bryan is in the lead with 45, followed by Jeff with 39 and me with 37. So Bryan's really opened it up there. When it comes to picking the game in the spread, I still hold a 1-point lead with 14 over both you guys with 13.
Okay. All right, y'all ready?
As ready as I can be.
All right, let's start with Steelers takeaways. Dave mentioned how they've had 3 a lot in recent memory, yet the Eagles have not turned it over. I've got to set the line at 2.5. Some might say that's a little advantageous, but still, Bryan, what do you think?
I have to go under based on that stat line. It's probably still going under anyways, but I've at that point when I hear a stat line, scared Bryan thinks, well, hope they get 1.
Okay. Dave?
I'm also going to take the under, but if you'd have picked 1.5, I'd have taken the over because I think what it is both teams, maybe they'll both give a little and the Steelers can get 2, but they can't get up to that magic 3. I would be surprised if they get none because, I mean, my goodness, it's been a long time since the Steelers had none. So we'll see. But yeah, with it being 2.5, I'm going under.
Yeah. I revisionist history should have gone at 1.5, but still I'll go under as well. Let's go Steelers sacks. The Steelers are coming off of 7 sacks the last 2 weeks. They've been getting after the quarterback. The Eagles have given up 36 sacks on the season so far. And I've got this line at 3.5. Bryan, over under.
I'm going to stick with my under 3. So 3 and the under.
All right. Dave?
I'm never going to catch up to him because I have the exact same thing. I'm going with 3, which is the under.
What the hell? Let's go over. Jalen Hurts, he holds onto the ball a long time sometimes, and he runs around, and I think Steelers will go over. Let's go 4. It doesn't matter anyway. So let's go with Pittsburgh passing yards. Pittsburgh Steelers passing yards as a team, 205.5. That's the line, Bryan, over under.
I'm actually going to go over on this one. I think that they're going to need to sling the pig a whole lot, possibly if Saquon goes a little nuts on them in the third quarter, which happens sometimes. So if they have to come back, they're going to throw, and 205 should be no problem.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, 205. I'm going to go with the over for that as well. So once again, I can't make up any ground, but I honestly, if they only have 210, you're still like, but like Bryan says, if they're not leading or if they're trying to come back at all, than that. If they, I mean, honestly, if you think the Steelers are going to come out here, get the lead, and hold the lead the whole game, then I would pound that under if that's what you think is going to happen. I just don't know against this team that this is going to be one that they're leading the whole time.
I'm going to go over, but not by much. Not by much. I think this is going to be a game where both offenses might be a little bit more anemic than usual. Let's go Steelers rushing yards as a team, 125.5. That's the number, Brian.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I really want to take the over here, but I'm going to take the under here because I think Dave's going to take the over.
Okay.
I really wanted to take the under here, but since Bryan went under, I'm going over. But I wasn't wanting to go over. I was wanting to go under.
All right, then I'll take the over.
No. So we'll see who gets screwed with this one.
I'm going to go
under. I'm over.
I'm going over as well. Okay. All right. And let's go Chris Boswell field goals, 2.5. Check your score predictions quick. Brian, over, under.
I don't even have a score prediction yet. So I like 3 with Boz. I kind of feel like that's with this defense, it's a good defense. So yeah, I'll go ahead and say 3.
Okay, Dave.
Based on my score prediction, it's 2.
All right.
So I'm taking the under.
Based on mine, it's 3. So I've got the over. And then the last one, Philadelphia rushing yards as a team. They average 190 in a game. 135.5.
Oh, you suck so bad.
Thank you. Brian, over, under.
135.5.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeff, just wait. That's a good line.
I'm going to go ahead and take the over here. I feel like Saquon's good enough for a 40. And he's if you think Derrick Henry's tough, I just think that this guy is the man.
Okay. Dave?
Okay, I missed what Bryan said.
He said over.
I'm going under. And we'll talk later.
I'm going under as well. I'm going under because they have to go under if they want to win the game. And so I'm going to say they go under. All right. So there you have 6 over-unders for this week. Dave, did you get all those?
I did.
All right. Very good. Okay. Let's talk about the score. Let's talk about our predictions. Now you take a look at the odds, which is funny. Earlier in the week, the over-under was 42.5, but it since has gone to 43 even. So as of earlier today, I checked, it was 43. I'll double check that number here as Brian's giving his prediction. But the Steelers are getting 5.5 points. 5.5 points. So Brian, what is your score prediction?
I'm going to go ahead and take the Steelers in the points, but I'm actually going to predict a loss here. Don't want to, but I just go with my gut, and I like it because my gut's wrong a lot, especially with what I choose to stick in my gut. So let's just go ahead and say my final score, what I came up with was 27-23. So I would be taking the over, and I'm going to go ahead and take Philadelphia. I think that even though the jinx doesn't mean anything to the Steelers players, I just don't see Philly slowing down for anybody right now.
All right. Dave, what about you?
Brian, you were saying all the same things I was going to say, and I was worried you were going to come up with the exact same score as me, but you have each team with a field goal more than I do. I have the Steelers covering, but not able to pull out the win. Honestly, I might have gone different if George Pickens was playing. Just because, but I've got 24-20 Philly, so Steelers cover, but Philly ultimately gets the win. That's barely over.
So for me, I mean, I look at this game, and this was a tough one to predict because, like I said, I'm not sure which way it's going to go. You think about when the Steelers played the Ravens earlier this season, we all predicted a very high-scoring affair, and the final score was 18-16. Who saw that coming? Like, no one. And then you look at like the Bengals game, and no one saw the Steelers putting up 44 points in that game. So I'm not really sure, but I'll tell you what, I have confidence in this team for the first time in a long time. And they are battle tested and they have won big games on the road. And are they as big as this? Maybe not, but still, I think that this Steelers team with Russell Wilson, the dude's a winner. Like he's a winner. Like you can't, that can't be taught. Like you either are a winner or you're not. He is. I think the Steelers win, walk off Chris Boswell field goal 23-20, which is the line. That's a push. I double checked. I double checked and it is still 43, not 42.5. So yeah, there you go. 23-20, last second field goal. They get in field goal range. Boswell nails it. Walk-off winner. Get out of Philly with a win.
If they actually do push, you're getting 2 points.
Okay.
I'm telling you, if you get it right, I'm giving you both. I'm going to give you 2 points for that. I'm calling it now. But
I appreciate it.
And I think Bryan and I feel very similar about this game. It's not that the Steelers can't win. It's just, will it all fall right at the right, when it all comes down to it. And honestly, not many teams have hit 20 points against the Eagles.
Right.
So Bryan has him at 23. I have him at 20, and Jeff has him at 23. So that's actually scoring a good bit of points on the Eagles.
Yeah.
So that's pretty.
They have some inexperience. They're good players. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, but they have some young players in that back end. I just wonder if maybe the Steelers have something up their sleeve. I don't know what that would be, but we'll see. We will see. All right, Bryan, are you ready to go down memory lane? Once you unmute yourself, you can do so.
First, he has to actually unmute himself.
Oh, my gosh.
Just got to give you something to complain about, Jeff. Yeah. I do this for you.
I wish you wouldn't. Here we go. You ready?
Yes.
3, 2, and 1.
All right. Let's go back to 2004. Ben Roethlisberger had a rookie year. It was amazing. On Halloween that year, Belichick and the Hoodie come in, and I was in attendance as the Steelers trounced the New England Patriots, and they were undefeated at the time. So next week, how do you follow up beating an undefeated team? You play another undefeated team, 7-0, the Philadelphia Eagles. And it ended up being both of these teams, the Eagles and the Patriots, in the Super Bowl. But the Steelers were in the AFC Championship that year. They ended that year 15-1. But this was a game when Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens were at each other's throat. They had a fight on the sidelines. No, not fists, but they were afterwards. Donovan McNabb was making fun of Terrell Owens, stomping away from him. They were yelling at each other. And the Steelers just like that put up 21 points right away. It's 21-0. Next thing you know, Hines Ward is flapping his arms, doing the Philadelphia Eagles dance. Akers gets one with 6 minutes left in the second, and that's it. 27-3. They send the Eagles home. They beat undefeated teams back-to-back. It was a glorious year where a lot of fans fell in love with the Steelers all over again, and I was in attendance for that one too. Back-to-back wins for me.
All right, very good. 125. Love it.
Ooh.
That was the game where T.O. was following Donovan McNabb on the sideline.
Yes.
And he kept turning away from him, and he's chirping in his ear, and he just kept turning away. But yeah. All right, good stuff. Dave, trivia time. What you got?
Yes, well, I had a trivia, and then I had a better trivia. So my original trivia might just be more of a fun fact rather than make you guys have to do stuff with it. But we know that the Steelers have struggled in Philadelphia, shockingly.
Yep.
Who's the last Steelers quarterback to throw a touchdown in Philadelphia?
I actually know this. I saw it on Twitter today.
Did you?
I
thought this might have been out there somewhere. I didn't see it out there. I looked it up.
I won't say it, so I'll let Bryan guess it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say Cordell Stewart in 1997.
In a 23-20 loss in 1997, Cordell Stewart did throw 2 touchdown passes. Who were they to?
2007. I would say Yancey Thigpen had a great year that year.
97. Yeah.
97. That's what I meant. Sorry. Yancey had a great year that year. And Andre Hastings. Let's go with Yancey and Andre.
And neither one of those would be correct.
Was Courtney Hawkins? Did I mix up Austin Hastings for Hawkins?
It's Hawkins that was on the team and had stats in that game, but it wasn't him either. Jeff, you want to take 2 shots?
I found a different stat. I thought, so you're saying quarterbacks, not who was the last player to throw.
Yes.
Okay, because
the last player to throw a touchdown was.
That's what I saw today on Twitter.
Yeah. You can answer that if you want to.
I'll give Bryan a chance if he wants to guess.
Yeah. Who was the last player to throw a touchdown in Philadelphia for the Steelers?
Oh goodness. So if it wasn't Cordell, it was probably a running back. Or a wide receiver.
It's Chase Claypool.
Chase Claypool to Derek Watt.
Oh, yep. I have no recollection of that. That game was
that was the last time they played in Philly.
Yeah, that game
that was 22, right?
2022.
Yeah. That was the 35-13 loss.
Oh.
And then the 2 losses before that, they didn't even score a touch. Well, I don't know. Because they didn't even hit double digits.
Boy, by the way, 35-13, it wasn't that close. That game was not
Kenny Pickett was just running for his life in that game. He had nowhere to go. If you remember that play, Chase Claypool comes and gets he gets the handoff, and then as he's stringing it out, Derek Watt releases into the flat, and he just floats it over the line, and it's a touchdown. Yeah.
So, Jeff, you want to take a shot on who the 2 players were that caught touchdowns
in 97?
From Cordell Stewart in 97? It was not Yancey Thigpen, and it was not Courtney Hawkins.
Was Eric Green still on the team or no?
No, he's gone.
He was gone. Okay. I'm trying to think of a tight end.
Oh.
If you know, go ahead, Bryan.
He's still in the scouting department, Jeff.
That's who the tight end was, but he did not have a reception in that game.
Mark Bruner.
He was targeted once with no receptions.
So you guessed Yancey Thigpen, and you guessed who's the other guess, Bryan?
Courtney Hawkins. Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank.
If you're ready, the first touchdown in that game was caught by one Jerome Bettis for 19 yards.
Okay.
And then the other one was one Will Blackwell.
Oh, Will Blackwell. Number 89.
Yeah.
I would have never gotten that either.
That was a 30-yard touchdown.
He was a rookie that year.
Yeah. So those were what those were. Now, what I was originally going to do as some sort of trivia, but I'm going to do it more as a fun fact. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles schedule, all right, they beat the Baltimore Ravens, okay? They beat the Los Angeles Rams, who've been a pretty hot team, and they beat the Washington Commanders. Those were in 3 straight games. Other than those wins, they haven't played a winning team since before their bye week during this win streak. Those are the only 3 winning teams that they've gone up against, and they haven't been facing top-notch defenses this season. If you look at them, their average. What are they averaging rushing, Jeff?
190.
If you look at how those rush defenses actually rank in the NFL, now part of you could say, well, maybe they rank worse because they had to go up against the Eagles in a game. That's very well could be. You could be cause and effect. But they've only played 3 teams that were in the top half of the NFL in run defense. 3 games against a team that's top half of the NFL in run defense. And they haven't played anybody twice this season because after the Steelers, they have 3 division games after the Steelers. So they've only played everyone in their division 1 time. But in games where they've gone up against top half defenses, they're averaging 132.3 rushing yards per game. And when they go up against bottom half defenses, they're averaging 207.9 yards per game.
That's why you laughed when I gave my line.
That's why, because it's 132.3 and you said 135.5, which is really close to that. So I'm going with 132 because that's that average, because the Steelers are in that top half, because the only teams in the top half rushing defenses that they've gone up against are the Ravens that are number 1. They ran for 140. The Packers, the first week of the season, who's number 9, they rushed for 144. And the Buccaneers, who are number 11, and they rushed for 113.
Yeah.
So and they've rushed really well against bottom half teams, with the exception of the Browns, who typically are a pretty good run defense, but this year they're ranked 22nd. They only put up 116 on them. Otherwise, they've been putting up crazy numbers on everyone. I mean, oh my goodness, the Rams 314 yards last week against the Panthers, the last rush defense in the league. 209. Okay. Oh, they put up 228 on the Commanders, but they're 27th in the league. They put up 237 against the Jaguars. They're 24th in the league. They put up 269 against the Giants. They're 29th in the league. So what they're doing is exactly what you should do, and that is rack up a lot of rushing yards on the bottom rushing defenses. And that's something that the Steelers don't always do. So kudos for them for doing that. But when it comes to going up against some of the better rush defenses, they haven't been able to do quite as much.
All right. I love it. Good stuff as always. Let's finish the show with some final thoughts. Bryan, you get the felt up variety this week. Go ahead.
If this was Sesame Street, the final thoughts of Bryan Anthony Davis would be sponsored by the letter E and the letter E. Not for Eagles, but for exceeds expectations. Now, why do I pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to lose in this game? When I picked the Cincinnati Bengals to beat them a couple weeks ago, the people that came to my house, they drove up from an hour away to come and watch the game with us. And she said, we listened to your show on the way up. I almost had my husband turn the car around, because how can you pick against the Steelers? I'm like, it's just a gut, but I like to exceed my expectations. I really think the Steelers can win this game. I don't know if they're going to. I am going to be in attendance. Connor and I will be there, and I cannot wait to be there at this game. If you want me to get killed, we'll wear a jersey, but I'm thinking no. And that will, not dying, exceeds my expectations. So that's one of the things I'm looking at here. But I really think the Steelers, if they are the team of destiny that in the back of my mind, I really think they are. If I think this is Russell Wilson's opportunity to not really close out a career, but to get one late in his career, if he's the Hall of Fame quarterback that I think he is, then they will exceed expectations in this game. So I'm really excited about this game, not just because I'm in attendance, but this is an opportunity for them to go ahead and announce who they are. Now, twice have they played the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, years that they won a Super Bowl, 1979 and 2008. And they lost both those games. The one in 1979 was not as bad. The one was dreadful. It was 15-9. Ben Roethlisberger got sacked like crazy in that game. But one little break, and they win that game. Or was it 15-6? It was bad. It was rough. But he got sacked like crazy in that game. And just one touchdown kind of changes things in that game. Can they get that one touchdown? Are they who I think they are as a team of destiny? We're going to find out this week if they exceed expectations.
All right, Dave, you get the full frontal variety for your final thoughts this week. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just remember, that streak in Philadelphia. Yeah, that's awful. That's 65 years. It's 10 games. It's 10 games over 65 years. And I have to say this. I missed this. I did not realize Bryan was going to be at this game. I just found out. So I'm really ecstatic about that. That might have made me change my pick, Bryan. I wish I would have known. Because
you would have had the Steelers losing still, though, because Bryan's a bad omen.
Well, honestly, you never know with Bryan, because we figured it out this week on Scoborough's show that Bryan is you can blame Bryan for the Steelers losing that flexed Sunday night game against the Buffalo Bills back in what year am I? That was
2019. It was a Duck Hodges year.
Yeah, it's because I didn't get to stop at the Sheetses in Uniontown, because Bryan made me go through Breezewood and the Turnpike and didn't get to go to Uniontown and make my normal stop. So every time I stop there, it's good things that happen. So because Rich and Kyle, the story was Kyle bought a drink from Sheetz at a different Sheetz when he first went to leave. And Rich said, you can't take that in the stadium. You've got to buy it from the one in Uniontown. And he made him buy another one. And that was the one he took in the stadium with him. And that was a nice Steelers victory. But anyway, Sorry. This is the Steelers' last NFC game, but you also got to look at this as the Eagles' last AFC game. And being on an Eagles podcast this week really got me seeing some perspective from them. Some of their fans are like, they've won 9 in a row. They're going to drop one. They're thinking that if they're going to drop another game, this is going to be the one. Because after that, they've got 3 straight division games. Their games actually, in my opinion, get a little bit easier for the rest of the season. Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants, just based on everything. So, and they would much rather drop this one than the next one to the Commanders. So they're kind of in a very similar boat to Steelers fans. But guess what? That doesn't matter anything to the teams. Both teams are going out there doing everything they can to get this victory. I'm excited to watch this game. I can't wait. I absolutely think the Steelers can win this game. I picked them to come up short. I'm going to bet them on the money line. I'm going to do it. That's going to be a great bet on the money line. I'm going to take it, and we'll just see how it goes. So I guess it'll be Jeff and I back here for the post-game show.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this isn't when God intended NFL football to be played. You got to wait an extra 3 hours and 25 minutes for kickoff. But oh well. But this is exciting football to watch because I'm so excited because my expectations are a little bit lower, and I still think that the Steelers can come out and play with this team, and this would be a good gauge for who they are across the league.
Dave, you said it as their last NFC opponent, just of the regular season, that is.
Yes. That's what we're talking about.
That's
I already said on that podcast, hey, well, let's talk in February. That's fine.
That's right. Now, not Philly. I don't want to play Philly again. I hate Philly. All right. This has been good. This has been a great show. We appreciate everyone for watching live. We appreciate those that are listening in the audio platform. Do you want to say that we've been teasing it for a long time. The SteelCurtainNetwork.com website is getting a facelift. It's almost done. SteelCurtainNetwork.com. Make sure you go check that out. We'll definitely announce it when it is live and ready to go. But that's on the horizon. Make sure you check out all of our content at Steel Curtain Network, the podcast platform. Remember, anywhere you get your podcast, you get so much more than just what's on YouTube. So check us out wherever you get your podcast. Search Steel Curtain Network. That does it for us. Brian, enjoy the game. Dave and I will be back on the post-game show. We'll see you next week for another Steelers preview. Take it easy, everyone.
Hey.
Oh, Dave, yeah, there you go.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.